Really, really beautiful. So as we've had these sessions today, I hope everyone's had conversations which leaves them with such full feelings, something that is needed from all of us to help this region grow and become better. So in Nexus, we have a long-time policy of non-solicitation, which means you can ask someone, what is your passion and how can I help? But your third question can't be, and give me money. Sorry to disappoint. However, our first time, we're going to pilot tonight a dinner. The dinner is an opt-in additional event. We don't make money on it, unfortunately, for us, but it's an opt-in additional event. For the first time, there will be pitches. So this is a space where it is inherently solicitation. So if you want to join us for dinner tonight, we hope you'll come. If not, please have dinner somewhere in Miami. I hear they have good food here. But if you want to join us, we'll have 5 entrepreneurs pitching from social impact companies, everything from water to the environment to helping humans as well. And you can register for the dinner up until 6:30. Just go to the registration table. After 6:30, I think, yeah? After 6:30, I'm sorry, find a friend, go on a date somewhere. So please join us for the dinner. People have said, Rachel, you're hosting the Latin American Caribbean Forum in the United States. That's true, I'm sorry. I find myself saying I'm sorry a lot about things America's doing lately. That's a whole different conversation. But the point is that yes, we, Nexus, are hosting the Latin American Caribbean Forum here in the United States, but it is being organized really largely by Talita from Brazil, who has not slept in days. This is really her brainchild, along with Ana Roselli on our team and Gabriel Lopez and Jonah. They are really the energy behind today. So it's in Miami, but with the heart of Latin America. So with that, please welcome Talita to tell us about our closing plenary.
Thank you, guys. I'm also practicing be a speaker and moderator, so it's hard for me sometimes. So I would like to welcome this plenary. Is really important because we look at a lot about outside and the challenge that we are facing in the region, but also all the challenges and that we would like to address started inside us, first of all. So this is an invitation for us for a space for self-development and understand our emotional intelligence better, what could help us with our physical well-being. So this is something really important because we do a lot outside or for others, but we need to take care about ourselves. Like we need to take care about people that are taking care of this new world that we are building. So this is another dimension that most of the times we forget. We forgot. And it's really important for us to don't burn out and to be well to do this work that we are intentionally doing. So I would like to invite Margarida Passos. So she's a corporate trainer, speaker, and business coach with 23 years of experience in sales, leadership, high performance, emotional intelligence, and time management. Coach and trainer for Brian Trace in Central America, member of the John Maxwell team, fellow of the Aspen Global Leadership Network, focal point business coach, TED speaker, television hostess, and producer, publisher, author. So thank you, Margarita, to be here with us and accepted this role, and Luis and everybody that you are going to welcome here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Talita. Hello, everybody. Is everybody else cold, or is it just me? Because where I live, it's like 90 degrees all year long, so I'm cold, but it's fun. So which one do I click? The one in the top? Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start because Talita, thank you for everything you've done here, and Jonah and everybody else. I'm going to start because she asked me to, not because I'm being rude, because I'm the moderator, so I should have been last, but I'm going to start. And I'm going to talk to you about emotional intelligence. Is anybody here an expert on the topic or works with emotional intelligence? Anybody here? Thank you. Has some moderate information on the topic? Awesome. And so raise your hand if this is totally new for you. You've never heard of emotional intelligence before. You know, 20 years ago, people didn't know what that meant, right? And now, thank God, fortunately, people are starting to be aware of the importance of emotional intelligence. So let me start with this, the Carnegie Triangle. All of you probably know who Andrew Carnegie was, right? The steel magnate. So like probably 90 years ago, he invested $1 million, $1 million, which is still, for some of us, a lot of money today, right? Just to find out what made some people more prone to being successful. And then, like the X factor, right? What's the X factor that's going to determine if you're going to be successful in life? And when we say successful, we don't mean you're going to be rich, right? Successful means you're going to be living in a happy and fulfilling life, and you're going to be doing what you're passionate about. And they came out with what today we know as the Carnegie's Triangle. So the first two, and what they said is there's 3 aspects to being happy and successful in life. The first 2 are knowledge and skills. What percentage of success do you think these 2 are? Just give me a number. Come on, David. 20, both of them, or 10 and 20. 30, 50, okay. Anybody gives me more? It's like an auction. Okay, 4. Thank you, that's close. It's 7.5 each, 15%. So 85% in Andrew Carnegie's time was called attitude. Today we call it emotional intelligence. And since most of you are leaders, you probably hire people all the time or have hired people before. And you know that sometimes you can hire someone that comes, I don't know, from MIT and have a PhD, you know, and they have all the titles. But when they come to work, they don't get along with anybody. They get stressed out about the littlest things and challenges, right? And they get a migraine headache, and they have colitis, they cannot sleep. And then this young person comes, this millennial, I'm gonna say this millennial comes, and he doesn't have as many titles, but he has emotional intelligence, right? And he gets along with everybody else. And he tells you, hey, you know what, boss? I don't know how to do it, but I'll find out a way, you know? I'll learn, I'll look into it, I'll go with you, I'll stay the extra hours, right? So that's emotional intelligence. And by saying that, I just wanted to give you this so you can understand the importance of the topic we're gonna be addressing right now. So, Jonah, who do you talk to the most? My wife. Your wife. Good boy, good answer. Yeah, you know we're on live stream, right? So, who do you talk to the most? Yeah, you. In life, in general. Your kids. Your kids? And you, my friend? My kid. Good. My kid, tell me. Myself. Thank you. Give her a round of applause. Myself. Yeah, it's not the neighbor, it's not the boyfriend, it's not the girlfriend, no, it's you. When you wake up in the morning, you start a conversation right away with yourself, right? Oh, what an ugly day. I hate the weather. It's so cold. My husband's so fat. You know, I hate my life. Or look at these wrinkles, you know. And then you drive in your car and you start complaining in your mind about the government, about the traffic. And when you get to your office or wherever you work, you're like, you know what, I'm a little stressed out, but I don't know why. It's so weird, you know. So that conversation that you have with yourself, it's called self-talk. And self-talk, it's the basis, the foundation, the core of emotional intelligence. High-performance people have amazing self-talk. Happy people have amazing self-talk, right? Some people are like tuned in, I don't know, I'll tell you about this later, but let me just tune in like on radio misery from the moment they wake up, right? And you can always find reasons, you know, to be miserable. I've known people that have nothing, no health, no money, no family members. And I literally have spoken to people like that have peace and faith and some kind of happiness. And I have spoken, we all know people that have so many blessings and so many things to be grateful for, and they're always complaining, right? Okay, so let's just tune in radio I can, radio gratitude, radio I'm happy every morning. So I wanted to tell you my story real quick because I only have 10 minutes. I was born in Medellin, Colombia. When I was a teenager, there was a war between the cartels of Medellin and Cali. So there were awful things happening in the city, like bombs exploding and massacres. And so I went through a lot. And when I moved to the United States, I started having panic attacks. And the first one was at an airport. I was a corporate trainer already. I was taking a flight, I think, to Tampa. And I had a panic attack. And after that, I spent 3 months in bed. I wouldn't stop crying. I wouldn't let my husband leave the house, so I couldn't work and he couldn't work. It was really debilitating. And even I never thought about killing myself, but I had thoughts in the neighborhood of, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I wouldn't mind, you know? That's how depressed I was. And my husband, he's always reading, he reads a lot. He reads like 3 books a week. I read like 1 maybe. I read a lot, but not as much as him. He started reading to me about self-talk, a book from Dr. Chad Helmstetter. And I started feeling better and better and better. And that's when I decided that there had to be a better way of living life. And I went to Seattle, Washington to study cognitive psychology. But I brought a gift for you. So these are rubber bands. What I did is I put a rubber band on my wrist. And every time I had a negative thought, I would just, ¿cómo se dice pegarme? Snap myself real hard and change it for a positive thought, right? And that's PNL, Programación Neurolingüística. English, please. Neurolinguistic programming. I don't know what's wrong with my English today. I'm going to start speaking falando portugués. No falo portugués. So can you help me? Just please, everybody put one on your wrist. And let's start changing our self-talk. When you change your self-talk, your whole emotional life, your relationships change. Every time you have a negative thought, you start producing cortisol. And cortisol makes you fat, it makes you sick, right? Adrenaline, and it's like a chemical soup of poison. Has anybody of you heard of the story of Norman Cousins? Norman Cousins? He was the editor of Saturday Review, the magazine. And they gave him 3 months to live. And he left the hospital and he decided to watch funny movies and read comics. And 1 month later, his body was clean of the disease. And he wrote a book, Norman Cousins. So every day we have more information about the connection of the mind and the body. I mean, every time we have a negative thought, we're poisoning our bodies. Every time we have a positive thought, our body segregates, that's not the word, produces serotonin, oxytocin, and we feel better. And our immune system gets stronger. Oh my God, I need to practice my English more often. Okay, so let's go. So what do you see here? Am I going backwards? So I need a course for this clicker. I'm gonna go to Miami-Dade. Okay, there you go. What do you see there? Un buitre, un vulture. If a vulture flies and steps on your head, what would you do? What would you do to it? Scream and like hit it away, scare it away, right? So let's think of this vulture as an ant, an automatic negative thought. You're always going to have negative thoughts. They're always going to come back to you, But the difference between high-performance people and low-performance people, healthy people and sick people, is what you do with those vultures that come to your head, right? If you feed them, they will make a nest, lay eggs, and then poop on your head, right? So you need to start scaring them away. And that's what the rubber band is for. So always remember the vulture. Okay, so explanatory style. I'm glad we were talking about Sam Walton this morning, because we all have, let me see. Hello? Okay. We all have a way to explain things to ourselves, right? It's like when you say some people see half of the glass empty and half of the glass full. That's explanatory style. You can be stuck in traffic and say, oh, well, thank God I have a car, and I'm not getting wet like those people, and I can call my mom on Bluetooth, of course, right? This is a time for myself. I can listen to the music that I like. Or you can just complain and I was going to say a bad word. No. Okay, you know what I was going to say. You just can complain and get anguished and stressed out because of the traffic. So that's explanatory style. Oh, look, this is a nice time for myself to talk to my family, listen to music, or just this is the worst thing that can happen to me during the day. So Sam Walton was once asked what he thought about the recession in one of the biggest recessions of the United States. He said, I was asked what I thought about the recession. I thought about it and I decided not to take part. How about that for an explanatory style? Mientras unos lloran, otros venden pañuelos. ¿Sí o no? What? Can somebody please translate that? You speak beautiful English. Mientras unos lloran, otros venden pañuelos. Exactly. Thank you. So if you look at Walmart's, have you ever heard this, that Walmart stock is recession proof? It's like a myth, but if you Google it, there's a lot of articles that say this, and you say it has often been said that Walmart is a recession proof stock or a bear market stock, as its revenues and sales tend not to take a hit from any kind of economic turmoil. That begins with leadership, right? If you hear a leader of an organization speak like that, that permeates to the rest of the people. And we're all leaders in our families, in our communities, in our organizations. So how are we explaining things to ourselves? There's always going to be challenges. Let's start by changing the words, transformational vocabulary. If you're always saying, I have so many problems, we don't have problems. Really, nobody in this room, I think, has problems. We've seen people that have real problems, right? Would you agree with me? So let's start by changing the words, transformational vocabulary. Why don't we change the words I have to for the words I get to? In the morning, you can say, I have to go to work, or hey, I get to go to work, and I get to change people's lives, and I get to do what I love to do for a living. How many people would love to have a job? In Latin America, in Nicaragua, where I live, most families survive on $1 a day. And we're complaining because we have to go to work. No, we don't. Or I have to pick up my children at school. Or I get to pick up my children at school because I'm so blessed to have them and they're healthy. And I'm taking them to school, not to the hospital for chemotherapy, like many parents are doing right now. Or they're not in a cemetery. So I would like you to write down right now in your phone, or if you have a piece of paper, just one thing that you dread doing. And that you usually start with the words I have to. Go ahead, write it down. I have to do the dishes. I have to pick up my child and take him to karate lessons. I have to whatever. Do you have one, John? Something that you dread doing? You don't want to talk about it? Anybody? Any volunteers? Any volunteers? No? No? No volunteers? I have to clean my house. There you go. I get to clean my house. Tengo la oportunidad de limpiar mi casa. Eso significa que tengo una casa y un lugar donde vivir. ¿Sí o no? Sorry, but it sounds better in Spanish. So I get to clean my house. That means I have a place to live, that it's mine, right? And where my family lives. Instead of complaining because we have to clean it. So that's transformational vocabulary. It's what I was telling. Let's stop saying we have problems. We don't. We have challenges. Isn't that exciting that we have challenges? Okay. One other aspect I want to touch about emotional intelligence, and I think that would be it for me because I only have 10 minutes, it's empathy. How many of you have to deal with difficult people? Raise your hand. And how many of you think that dealing with those difficult people gives you a little bit of stress or a lot of stress in your life? Okay. Empathy is one of the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. And this is a phrase I love. Hurt people hurt. La gente herida es la que hiere. Okay? Hurt people hurt. So when you see a person that tends to be difficult, tends to be, cranky all the time or rude, they're usually 99% of the time people that have been deeply hurt. And I have a story to finish. When I started working at this TV network in Nicaragua, there was this lady in accounting that was always sitting facing the wall. So that's why I have that picture. She was always facing the wall. And she was the one that would give you the checks for the advertising. And I would walk in and say, you know, good morning, buenos dias, Martita. And she would go like, if you're coming for a check, I have none for you. And she wouldn't even turn around and say hello. So I hated her, right? By that time, I haven't started going to the Pacific Institute to study cognitive psychology. So I probably had very low emotional intelligence. So I hated her. And every time I left the TV station, I was like, oh, that lady, I hate her. She's so bitter, you know? And one day my husband was around the TV station and I asked him, hey, could you please pick up a check, but be careful, you know? I even had nicknames for her. I think I call her La Culebra, the snake. I'm sorry. That was a long time ago. I don't do that anymore, I promise. So I told him, hey, but be careful with this lady, you know, because she's so rude. She won't even look at you. And when he came back to the office with the check, and I said, so how did it go, you know? What do you think about that lady? He said, no. I said, wait a minute. When she saw me, she started crying. And I was like, crying? I probably said something really rude, like she has tears in her eyes, you know? But then he told me, no, Margarita, she has a son that's a drug addict. Because my husband used to help an addict recovery institution. And she apparently knew about it. So she started crying when she saw him. And she said, he beats her up. He steals from her. He steals from the neighbors. And sometimes she doesn't know about his whereabouts for 2, 3, or 4 days. How many of you have children? If any of you wouldn't know where one of your children is right now, would you be sitting here? Thank you. And she would still, you know, take a shower, get dressed, and go to work. And then I figured she was probably facing the wall because maybe she had a bruise or she was crying. It was a big lesson in my life. You know how everybody's a gift in your life, even difficult people, because they're teaching you how to be more empático, empathetic, and how to use your emotional intelligence skills, right? So how are you going to practice if there's nobody difficult in your life? So next time you see that difficult person, instead of thinking about them with anger, just think about them with compassion. Because we don't know. We see the face, but we don't see the heart. We don't know what they've been through. Hurt people hurt. So some action steps before I finish. Be excessively cautious of your self-talk. Use the rubber band and don't tune in on radio misery. Promise? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, do not feed the vultures, the automatic negative thoughts in your mind. They will make a nest, like I told you, lay eggs, and then poop in your head. Enjoy the present moment. Stop living in autopilot. We're living in autopilot. And the screens are ruining our families. I know I probably went over like 30 seconds, but I'm going to finish. People get home, and everybody grabs their favorite screen, cell phone, a tablet, iPad. We have to be present. Live the present moment. Be curious. Try to understand rather than judge. By doing so, you will have compassion instead of anger. And do not put the key to your happiness on somebody else's pocket. Thank you. So that was my very short introduction to emotional intelligence, which is a much broader topic and much complex. But self-talk, that's the thing, self-talk, just remember that. So Rodrigo would be next, I assume. Where's Rodrigo? Okay. So I'm going to introduce you first. Rodrigo is an architect, a co-founder and the executive director of Instituto Elos, a Brazilian nonprofit organization that today has reached an impact worldwide. At Elos, he co-created the Warriors Without Weapons program and the Oasis game, being also a facilitator of these programs that challenge limiting beliefs. You want to say something to me?
Yeah, it's just because Luis Merino should be...
Okay, so Luis is next. So you get to be introduced twice. Nice. Okay, so it's okay. Luis Merino. Luis Merino calls himself a serial entrepreneur, right? He has co-founded companies in diverse areas: information technologies, renewable energies, biotech, and human health and nutrition. There you go. That's Luis's presentation. His vision is focused on increasing human potential by nurturing well-being in people and communities. Actually, he's He's the founder of Nutresencial, a collaborative platform to facilitate the adoption of healthy and harmonic lifestyles through education and easier access to healthy products and services in schools and other organizations and communities. He's working with the Chilean government to contribute to the National Obesity Plan with his work. So let's give Luis a round of applause. And I have a question before he starts. Luis, is nutrition just food?
I'm going to tell you now. It's not only food. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to go a bit fast because of time, but the idea is to give you a perspective of what we're doing, but also to give you tools to understand what nutrition is. So I'm starting here with a bit of perspective to change the context on, or it's not only the 80 or 90 years of a lifetime that we have, but if we compare it with the 4,000 million years of Earth, the first organisms were microalgae and plankton and bacteria that started producing oxygen and all these products that made life feasible here. It took 2,000 years, 2,000 million years, and if you take it in a calendar year, that's the scale, would be, we started in January, now we're in June. In June, we have the first complex cells, the eukaryotes cells. And in November, we have the first complex organisms, okay? We are more complex organisms. But when do you think human beings arrived to the planet? The Homo sapiens now. Sorry? 31st, at which time? Noon. Okay, we arrived at 6 o'clock, okay? Almost for the party, okay? So, and till the present day, why do I show this? Because imagine that industrial revolution was in the 1,000 times of a second in this scale. So we're the newest species in the planet, so we're not a bad species, we're just maturing. We're just knowing and learning how to live in this planet, okay? So all the big transitions in the planet has been through the exponential curve. I don't know if you know what exponential curve is. It's like duplicating, 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 and then the last duplication, it's a very big one, okay? So big changes occur in the planet in very short period of time, but that doesn't mean that the change is in short period of time. It's that you don't see it before, okay? What is happening today? We have the exponential curve on the population. We have almost 7,000 million people in the planet, and that means that all our energy consumption, and if you see the exponential curves that we're seeing now, we're doing in an exponential area, in an exponential transition. What means is that we're in the biggest transitions of human in the planet. So that brings complexities, like this one. I think we have talked about all this all day. Climate change. So you have all the natural events. I do not say disasters. I say events. Disaster means in the significance we give to that. Okay. The economy. Okay. So that means, sorry for the Spanish, but I didn't have the time to translate everything. The mentality is obsolete. It means that we do not, today, the actual mentality does not solve the complexity of what's coming. It's not that it's a bad one, but now we have to change the way we think about it. So if we take it to health, okay, we have four main things that kill most human beings in the planet. One is cardiovascular disease. The second one is cancer, different types of cancer. Third is diabetes. And the fourth, that it's not mentioned here, but it's underlined, it's obesity, okay? Sorry? Here? Okay. I can give you the presentation afterwards. Here is what happened in Chile. Now I'm going to the local context in Chile. In Chile, we eradicated nutrition in 40 years. That's really a big task we did. And that was a big generation of entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs that in Chile made it possible. And that was a big jump in Chile. But after that, we went to the to the other extreme, okay, obesity. And in Chile, we have a big problem here. One of thing is obesity is linked to many diseases. In Chile, we have almost 1 of every 4 Chilean people in obesity and 1 over 2 in obesity and overweight. Okay, that is really amazing in the bad sense, because our children are very ill. You know, I've seen children of 6 years old with diabetes. And that means in the next 30 years, we will have a very serious problem in our health system. We will not have health system that will be able to support this. And if you, and United States, what started doing 40 or 50 years ago, is started evaluating which would be the economic impact of this. And it's going to be much more big than energy or any other problem. So our children are really needing us. So we're in a change of paradigm that we're till now, and what all this change is about is we're coming from a survival mode paradigm, that it means that it's based on fear because we feel separated from each other, okay, and that it's in health, it's focused on illness, and that's good because until now we have been able to solve many of the problems, but now it's not helping because the business model of pharmaceutical companies is based on illness, so it's never going to get the result. So where we are going, and why do I put this? Did you see the matrix? Yeah, good. Because when I go to schools, children has not seen us, so they say, why these hands and all this stuff? But this is because we have now the chance to choose, and we can choose either paradigm. It's all of them are open. It's not that the survival paradigm will close. It's how do we choose it? Where are we going? A paradigm of unity. So we are all one. It's, for me, the best constitutions of the country in the future. Because when unity, the logic of unity, respect, freedom, and everything are natural. So in that paradigm, the paradigm of health, it's not based on fear, but it's based on potential. And in that means is how can we create more health to express more potential and abundance. So how do we do that? In our case, we focused on nutrition. Why? Because nutrition is something that you do every day. Your cells need nutrients every day and every minute because they are doing a big job. You know how much times, how 1 minute, okay. It's linked to all the diseases I mentioned. It affects the human expression of the genes, but this is the most important thing. It affects the learning of children very much. Here are some studies that were made in Chile about how it does affect the brain of the children, and it's astronomical. So when we speak about opportunities, a child that is not fed correctly will never have the same opportunity that a child that does, that it did. Never. So in that sense, what is nutrition? First, that nutrition is different from eating. One thing is eating, another thing is nurturing yourself. We speak about invisible nutrition and visible nutrition. Invisible nutrition feeds the 3 bodies that you don't see: emotional, mental, and spiritual. And you have the first food, invisible food, is purpose in life. The second food is relationships. The third food is spirituality. The fourth is the professional part. And the fifth, it's physical activity. That's the logic from where we are targeting this. And the physical nutrition, the visible nutrition, is what you say the nutrients, okay? What we are doing now is focusing on 2 main targets in our country. One is facilitating access to products and services through grouping demand of consumers. and reaching from producer directly to final consumer, lowering down approximately 40% the prices of healthy products. And education. What we're doing in education is we're working with the government, with HUNAEV. Chile is one of the 5 countries in the world where the government feeds the children, and that was a strategy made to link food with education. So children, parents send children to the school at least for eating. So that made in Chile an explosion of the education, the system of education. That was very good. And HUNAEV feeds 4 million portions of food per day. That's a big issue. In 11,000 schools for about 2 million families. So what we're doing now is a strategy with them to try to change these styles in a model where we target the collective humans, the individual human, the interior and the exterior. I will not stop in this model, but afterwards we can go with a community-based ecosystem where there are 5 main focus in the actions. One is leadership and collaboration. The second one is education and entrepreneurship. The third one is community strengthening. The fourth one is environment. And the fifth one is facilitating this access. In a lean startup, we're mixing lean startup methodologies to, in schools, be able to measure what we're doing, and from the measurements, being able to impact. These are some things we're doing. You can see the parents there in schools, and also the measurements we're doing in all the children. And these are the challenges. The main challenges are, how do you sustain this culture shift? They're very difficult. The old paradigm doesn't want to die. This is about envisioning in a 40-year plan that it's very difficult to do, because how do you find resources? And the most important thing, and this is my experience, is really the well-being, in the interior well-being. How do you sustain it? In my case, I'm very tired and sometimes very stressed out. And I say, how do I really be able to talk about this if I'm stressed? So that's what I put here in the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luis. When I was talking to Luis in the hallway, one of the things that struck me the most was when he said there were invisible nutrients. And he said sometimes a toxic relationship can be more harmful to you than eating junk food, you know? So that's very important. And one of the reasons when I was talking to Talita for this last panel, it's for you people tend to give a lot to others, but for you to take care of yourselves. Like when you go on an airplane, they tell you that if the cabin loses pressure, oxygen masks are going to drop from the panel above your head. And they always tell you, make sure you secure your own mask first before you help someone else. And sometimes we're trying to help and change the world, but we're stressed out, we're not being nourished, we don't have healthy relationships. So it's very important that we take care of ourselves, because if we really want to fulfill our huge purposes and visions, we have to be happy and healthy. Okay, Rodrigo, now it's your turn. I'm going to reread, because I don't know how far along I read on your bio, but Rodrigo, again, Alonso is an architect. He's a co-founder of the executive director of Instituto Elos, a Brazilian nonprofit organization that today has reached an impact worldwide. He co-created the Warriors Without Weapons program and the Oasis game, being also a facilitator of these programs that challenge limiting beliefs by promoting cooperation within diversity and by training and stimulating leaders and communities to find abundance and potential where we normally see scarcity and weakness. Besides that, he's been working internationally as a consultant and speaker on social change, entrepreneurship for change, participative leadership, community building, and community mobilization in multicultural contexts. So, Rodrigo, under your perspective, what is well-being? Welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Luciana, who brought me this year here, and Talita, who support all the process. First, I want to say that I think I am lucky to do kind of work that brings me a lot of well-being, I would say. And I think it is because it's based it comes from a place of abundance. It comes from a place of believing that we do have potential, that we do have resources, that we do have the best qualities to make a change in the world. So the first thing that I want to talk about is in our culture, we are told since we were born to be successful as individuals. So we demand our children to be the best ones, the best students. They should be successful as individuals. But when it comes to society, to what is common, we say that we should solve problems, that we should do a better world. And to do a better world, to make a better world, it's about solving problems. It's about saying no to a number of things. No to hunger, no to violence, no to poverty. We are not talking about dreams for the world, but for your life, you do have dreams. You don't tell your children, please solve your problems. Have a fixed life. But when you talk about the world, we're trying to fixing things, fixing problems, solving problems. So for me, the first thing to get well-being is to dedicate your life to build dreams that will be good for many. And by doing that, you will be doing good for yourself. So the first question that we have in our work is it possible to transform the world we're living into, the world we dream of? First, we need to talk about what is the world we dream of. Beyond the dream that you have for your life, what is the dream that we have for the world in common? What is the shared dream that we have for the world? Beyond solving problems. So this is the first thing that I want to share. I think that to dedicate your life to build a dream that will be good for many will bring to you a lot of well-being. It's bringing for me. One of my big frustrations is that I've been doing this work for 20 years, and I see that I am I'm a better person. I'm gaining much more from me than what I can see that I can change in the world. And it's a kind of frustration, but I'm still trying to make a bigger change in the world. What helps us also is what I'm going to show next. That we believe that the path to make this dream happen is transformation in community. And in order to talk about that, I'm going to tell one story about, no, not this. I'll be faster with this. Just showing this picture from one community that we worked with. And I said, we work from this place of potential. So this is one of the most poor communities around our city in Santos, in Brazil. But we look to this picture and we see potential. We could look at it and think, oh, old fences like falling apart, how poor they are. But actually, they are not concerned to hide what they have in their houses. They're not concerned if someone will come to rob them. Actually, the fences were for the chicken. So I started to ask, who is rich, who's poor? I have two people that works at the entrance of my building to take care of my security. In these communities, they have security provided by community, by the relationship that they have. So who's rich, who's poor? So the second thing for me that's about well-being is friendship and community. I met a woman in one of these communities called Dona Geralda. I usually go to talk with I look for people in these communities that love the community. And Dona Geralda was one of those people. And I asked her, Dona Geralda, why do you love this community? And then she said, wow, this is my life. You know, I got an apartment in that building, and then she pointed like a brand new social housing project. I got an apartment in that building. And I went to live there, but I got depressed. I didn't know my neighbors. I was feeling like presa, how do you say, locked inside of that building. I was taking 5 medicines. So I had to move back to the favela. Because this is the place where I am happy. Because when I wake up in the morning, I can say good morning to my neighbors. I can go and have coffee with my neighbors. If I don't have sugar, I can ask my neighbors, and if they don't have potatoes, I can offer what I have in my house. So community and friendship, well-being, for me, it's connected with that. So she's living in a favela, but she finds her well-being there because she has community and friendship and security, by the way, also. Another, the last thing that I want to talk about, I'm really concerned about time. I can speak 3 hours about all of this. It's living according to your talents, passions, and potential. So to be less than what you really are is to kill a part of yourself every day. And this part that dies starts to, how to say, rotten, to apodrecer, rotten. And this leads to illness. So we need to express our potential. In this case, this woman, she was in Bolivia, living in a settlement, in a temporary settlement. They lost their houses because of a big landslides in La Paz. And she was one of the talents of the community that we found, because she had a beautiful house that was painted with plants, and just beside, this side of the picture, there was a kitchen, an improvised kitchen, because she was preparing meals to sell, because she was saying, they are saying that the government will give us new houses, but I'm not going to wait, so I'm working to leave this place. And just because we were appreciating the talent that she had with the good things that she was doing, she had nothing. But the second day we were there, we were with a group of students there from the University of La Paz. She decided to go and offer a meal for us. She had nothing, but she was offering her potential to us. And this brings well-being to her. So offering your potentials, it's another way of finding well-being. I think that was basically all I want to share. I have some notes. So yeah, just to connect with the time is there. From where I began, I usually say that it's more important than be an important person. It's to do something important for others. And you may end up being important because people will say that what you do is important. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Well, now I understand. Yeah, I cannot hear myself. Okay. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. And speaking about community, Rachel, I was thinking, they told you, why would you host the Latin American Forum in Miami? But did you guys know that Miami is the capital of Latin America? Yeah, it's official, so don't worry. Yeah. Okay. So Blaine Ross is a creative entrepreneur. He's an experienced designer and producer known for award-winning experiences, environments, and content that sparks meaningful connections. His drive to authentically engage people in a way that enhances their increasingly self-defined and controlled world aims to cut through the noise and clutter of media and engage physical space and humanity. He strives to craft experiences that engage the senses and emotions of potential consumers through design. Blaine is currently following his passion for the oceans and environment, launching Shorelock, an early-stage company working to proactively prevent beach erosion. So, welcome, Blaine. Let's give him a round of applause. And I have a question for you. How do you handle challenges?
That's a good way to start off. Well, I'm going to show you right now how I start. We're going to do something that I think is a challenge, talking at the bottom of an hour. So everybody stand up. I want you to introduce yourself and hug your neighbor. All right, after everybody has gotten that done, we can have a seat. That's good. Yeah. All right, so we're going to have a seat again. Thank you for that, everybody. Okay, so one of the things that is going to happen here tonight is I had a conversation with Margarita last night, and I thought about what I was going to talk about, and we threw it out the window, and I'm going to talk about something a little bit more personal, and hopefully you guys can gain something from this. So we're also going to fly by the seat of our pants as we do it. Raise your hand if you have ever experienced failure. All right, good. So I want you to think about that moment that you failed, and I want 3 people to raise their hands, and I want to hear about that moment that you experienced failure. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Frustration. Okay. Anybody else? Let somebody down. Okay. And ma'am? I felt embarrassed. Got it. We all experience failure in different ways, and it is it's often a process in which we go through by ourselves. So what I'm going to talk about today is a giant failure of mine. I, as an entrepreneur, am not trained at talking like this. I tell you everything that I've done right. So we're going to do something a little different. So City Beach is an idea that I had a couple of years ago. And I was out on the West Side Highway in New York. I was living in Manhattan at the time. And it was a great spring day, and outside, people were laying all over the piers. It was covered. I mean, there was absolutely not a blade of grass to be seen. It was nothing but a sea of bodies. And it occurred to me that the greatest city in the world doesn't have a beach, and we needed one. So how else does a designer approach things? He looks at it from space, and I came up with the idea of building a floating beach. Now, I went out and took this idea into the world. I started off by enlisting a couple of architects to work with me on the process. And what we did is we took a reclaimed deck barge, and we started looking at how do we create a space, new green space for the city of Manhattan that engages people. It creates a place for people to connect and to enjoy time with each other, for musicians to come in and share. That's kind of why it's shaped like a chip, almost as if you were going to bring a symphony in. It really was designed to engage the community. And I took it out and we went to Indiegogo, and Indiegogo, if you guys are familiar with this, is an online platform in which you raise money. And I came out of the gate fantastic. I'm like, yes, we're at a couple $1,000. We're gonna go. This is gonna be fantastic. And next thing you know, the media coverage hits. This is a lot of media coverage for something that just kind of drops out. In fact, at the end of the day, David Letterman started talking about it, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be amazing. We're gonna get it. And then we didn't. And if you're familiar with Indiegogo, the way it works is if you don't hit your target, it doesn't go. So I really had to get real with myself and see, why was it that this happened? What was going on with this? And how did I feel? It felt kind of icky. So I realized that I was like, okay, what am I making this mean? Well, for me, it meant that I had failed. I had failed so big and so publicly, it couldn't get any uglier. It was really awkward. How was I going to spin this? So I want you to take a second and think about that time that you have failed and think about what it meant, what you made it mean. Did you feel like you weren't enough? Did you make it about somebody else and say, oh no, this was somebody else's fault? It's not my fault. So as you start thinking about that, the whole operative thing that usually comes out is I. And we're out here, all of us, creating really big projects. And we're doing really big things. And sometimes as we're doing them, we're so busy and getting caught up in the I, we kind of forget that we're part of a we that we're doing this all for. And that we're not actually this island that's out there by ourselves, or out there by themselves doing this thing. And at the end of the day, when I came through with this project and started looking at how I was going to try and grow and come out of it, the biggest lesson that I learned was that I have to build the community around me first before I come up with my brilliant ideas. It's a lot of legwork, it's a lot of groundwork, and sometimes we don't really think about how important it is to build that community before you drop the big idea. So I challenge you to start thinking about some of the big ideas that you have that are going on right now and looking at how you can source the people that are in this room to help you accomplish those things. It's not enough for us to sit in the room and talk about things and say, oh yes, that was really interesting and that existed in the time and space that we are in this room. The only way that we move forward is collectively. You turn to your neighbor on the right and say, do you have the same interest that I do? Would you be interested in joining me as we go out into the world and we take my idea forward and make it our idea? And I want us to sell our idea to everyone else, and that vision becomes their idea. Because this isn't about us doing things in here. This is about the bigger, broader vision of all of us and what we're moving everything towards. So that's what I'm going to finish with. Think about that. Think about how you can engage this community, leverage it, build on it, and take your vision out into the world and make it everyone else's. Thank you.
Awesome, Blaine. Thank you. And I love that Blaine brought the subject of failure, because we're talking about well-being, and sometimes we beat ourselves up when we don't get the results we were expecting. Failure doesn't exist. Results, we just get results. Sometimes we don't get the result we were expecting, so you try another approach and another approach. Don't change your goal, just change the approach, right? Thank you so much, Blaine. So Beatriz, where's Beatriz? Beatriz, come here, Beatriz Fiusa. Am I pronouncing your name well? Bia? Okay, Bia. Bia is the co-founder of Instituto Beatriz Lauro Fiusa. Bia Fiusa Barros studied advertising at Universidad de Fortaleza. Do I sound Brazilian now? Photography at Université de Paris, right? Anthropology at Frey University, okay, and education management at Centro Universitario 7 de Setembro. She has worked as a professional photographer, curator, producer, editor, filmmaker, and lecturer in different countries. Since 2012, she has dedicated herself to social development projects in education, music, and sports, focusing on building new perspectives for children and teenagers in underprivileged communities. More recently, she has become interested in the areas of impact investment and social business, encouraging the rise of a debate of those themes in the state of Ceará. So Bia is going to tell us a little bit about how she uses music and sports in development projects, right? Welcome, Bia.
Thank you. Hello. Well, thank you. I'm going to cheat a little bit, brought some notes just in case I blank. But today, well, thank you for having me here, first of all. It's just a great experience to be a part of NEXUS. And today I'd like to share with you a little bit of the work that we've been doing in Fortaleza. My family and I, we founded Instituto Beatriz Lauro Fiusa, which takes the names of my parents, 5 years ago. And together with a bunch of amazing people, we've been trying to work with education. To give you a little bit of context, we live in Fortaleza, which is a city of 3 million people. It's a beautiful city, great place for kite surfing, amazing beaches, but also a city of many, many great big social injustice and inequalities. We have the highest number of youth homicides. So that is about 10 in every 1,000 kids aging from 12 to 18 as a capital in Brazil, which is directly related to a high number of school dropouts. We also have a 27% rate of youth pregnancy, very low HDI, and just overall bad infrastructure. So a lot of work that needs to be done back home. And when we decided we wanted to help, we chose to do so through education. in a broader human development perspective. We thought that if we were to actually have an effect, a true effect on the complexity of these issues, we needed to prepare more people to face this with us, bringing solutions. And we thought, what other way to think about solutions better than education? Sorry, wait. So we decided to work with what is known as the biocentric pedagogy. It's a line of education based on Paulo Freire, Morin, and Toro. And basically it puts life first, right? So we recognize every individual as a subject, not an object. We recognize the value and the power that is within all of us. And we decided to build every method and every project that we would bring to life collectively, as a collective process. And we did that through sharing the experiences and understanding the needs of our communities. And we understood that we needed to first do the action, do the work, and then understand the theory so we could bring it into scale. And how we understood we wanted to do that, first of all, just bringing stronger bonds, nurturing the bonds between people. So understanding, I'm sorry, I'm very, very nervous. Although this is a very friendly crowd, it's overwhelming. So I'm gonna go for my notes and stop pretending that I'm cool. So stronger bonds means changing the way that we trust each other within our families and within our communities. Recognizing the value of life, it's got to do with the value of our own lives. So that's self-esteem. And it's also got to do with the value that we give other people's lives. So that's related to respect, basically. And third of all, we thought we needed to help people better their perspectives, their future. So realizing that no matter how hard, how difficult life is, it's worth the effort, basically, right? And hope should never fade away. Like, no matter how hard life is. And we decided to do that with karate and with music. Body and soul. And with love. Because in the end of the day, we realized that love, affection, is really what brings our students back every day, day after day. And also a team of just incredibly professional and compromised people that day after day come back and give their best. An interdisciplinary team that is also a key element that help us move forward. And images are better than words. So I'd like to share a very short video with you. This is David. He's one of our very talented young musicians. And I invite you to know him and to hear a little bit about what he has to say, because I think he'll do better than me.
Lugar que você pode voar. Lugar sem dor. Tudo que eu sei, eu aprendi aqui. Com meu corpo, com minha voz, com o que eu escuto. E eu não estou sozinho. Minha vida é diferente. e ela é incrível. Viva a beleza da minha comunidade. Viva a beleza da minha vida. Viva o que me engrandece. Imagine um lugar que você pode ser livre para ser o
Oh, thank you. So today, David is one of 600 kids that study music and karate in 3 study centers where we focus our programs in 3 different neighborhoods. But we believe that every child and every teenager, every person has the right to beauty, to arts, to sports, to a life filled with meaning. Everything that we've been talking about in this panel, how important these things are, no matter what your social background is. So alongside these 3 places where we focus our teaching programs and these 600 kids and their families, we decided to take what we do to more places. And today, throughout the year, we've been able to impact over 20,000 people in many other neighborhoods in Fortaleza. We organize concerts in public places, in public schools, in hospitals. We go to festivals, to markets, to theaters. This one was just last Saturday, a big concert with 75 young musicians on stage playing together. We organize sports events. We participate in championships all around the country. I'm finishing. Seminars, workshops, artistic residencies, and also many other cultural events, inclusive cultural festivities that bring families together and that value what they have to contribute. With music and with karate, we're able to work with kids' motor skills, cognitive skills, emotional and social skills. So today we see kids improving is the word, their discipline, the way they see themselves, you know, how they live challenges, how they celebrate their achievements. All that is done through music and through karate, through things that affect directly their emotions and how they see themselves. And all that work ends up bringing results, not only for the kids, but for their families also, that are directly related to dignity and hope, much needed feelings that sometimes we don't value enough. And today we see many kids going to college because of all that work, because of what they found out about themselves. We see, first, of their families in many cases. We see families breaking out of cycles related to alcoholism and to drug abuse and to poverty that were very, very difficult to break from. And we see kids ready to teach, to learn, to engage, to inspire. And I believe that is our idea of collective well-being. I'm very happy I got to show you this. Thank you very much.
That's beautiful work. Thank you so much, Bia. So Juan Casimiro, are you here? Thank you. Come here, Juan. So what began in Juan Pablo Casimiro's startup career, here next to me, in 1987 laid the groundwork for educational empowerment for youth and adults around the world. Now, with 30 plus years of experience, did you start at 5? 15. Now, with 30 plus years of experience as a public speaker, entrepreneur, educator, and coach, Casimiro specializes in building individual and organizational strength from within. His trajectory of work in entrepreneurship, financial literacy, coaching, growth mindsets, and strategic nonprofit development is known for the immediate enthusiasm they generate and the long-term benefits that flow from them. His core focus is to empower, teach, and create mindful entrepreneurs, innovators, and global leaders. Please welcome Juan Casimiro. Juan.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. I know you're here physically, so I want to make sure you're here mentally. You know, I often work with young people, and I check in because they check out so much, right? So this happens to adults. And as far as you said earlier that it was better in Spanish, I think it's the voice. You have an amazing voice. And as far as your presentation, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for being here. Again, my name is Juan Casimiro. Just think about this journey. Think about this journey. So I'm in New York City back in 1987, graduated from The Ohio State University, come back to New York, and I knock on the door. I was escorted to the principal's office in the South Bronx at Jane Addams Vocational High School. I just simply walked in, and I asked her, look, what's the easiest way to teach young people? How can I teach kids in the South Bronx, which at the time was one of the most challenging communities in the United States? As a matter of fact, Jane Addams Vocational High School, where I first started teaching, you would have to walk through metal detectors before airports had metal detectors. It was just the reality. And then she told me, well, her name was Miss List, if you really want to teach and get into the system, the largest system in the world, one of your best strategies is to consider teaching special education. And I said, okay, I'll take that on. I had a small business that I sold, and then I discovered that in the business that I had, I was selling school supplies to the schools, private schools in the Dominican Republic, and I would ask the directors there, look, if you let me sell you the supplies at a very affordable price, I would like to teach the kids in your schools on how to run a school store. And that's when I discovered my passion. It wasn't selling the products, or it wasn't even growing the business. It was impacting and empowering young people. And that was back in 1988. I met a man named Steve Mariotti from NFTE, National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship, and then I started teaching in the classes, teaching special ed students that were already labeled and even thought or believed or bought into that they weren't going to succeed. And we opened up a school store at Jane Addams Vocational High School, and then another school store. And then principals started asking me, can you do this at our school? Now picture this in New York City in the 80s, working with inner city special ed children. Then I asked myself, well, why just New York City? Let's do what I do around the country. And then I started teaching at different universities. And I did that for several years. Then I started teaching what I called entrepreneurship, youth innovation and youth entrepreneurship, all in the name of empowerment. Then I asked myself, well, why not around the world? 30 years later, 30 plus countries later, reaching well over 300 students. How blessed I am that I found my passion and I've been able to make a living from it and have fun and empower children. And every single thing I do, and I challenge all of you, when you talk about empowering others and serving others, be mindful. Connect emotionally. Too often times I see nonprofit directors chase the money because the funding is there, the grants are there. But is it your passion? And some 9-10 years ago, I got together with Scott Schickler, Jeff Waller, Mitch Schlimmer, and we created a company called the 7 Mindsets. And the very first mindset is everything is possible. Passion first is the second one. We are connected is the third. And you can just go visit that site to find out the other 4. I want to buy my time here. I got about 7 to 8 minutes. Just got off a plane in Dominican Republic. Met with a philanthropist that wants to get involved in Miami Beach. Came over here. And thank you, Ian. Thank you, Emily, for even telling me about NEXUS. I never heard of NEXUS. As a matter of fact, the NEXUS I know is the NEXUS Hotel in Dominican Republic. Sort of like an after-hour hotel. And I said, NEXUS? The only one I know is in Santiago, Dominican Republic, because I would drive by. I said, NEXUS, NEXUS, what is NEXUS? Then I got someone contacted me named Talita. We connected through email. And I tell Talita, my grandmother, her name was Talita. Another connection. That's the third mindset. We are connected. I've connected with some of you. Thank you, the gentleman who said, let's hug. Let's say something to each other. How often do we do that? Being able to exchange energy, that vibe. I've connected with a number of you. I will definitely follow up. We are connected. And this leads me to the most recent program under the Casimiro Global Foundation. I lost my dad about 20 years ago with Alzheimer's and other complications in Dominican Republic. I was left with an emotional void. And then I reflected when he passed away in August. And it was September, then September, October. Then I asked myself, what can I do for Pedro Antonio Casimiro in his honor? So he passes away, and I created the Casimiro Global Foundation. We've got 3 programs and 3 events. And I find friends like entrepreneurs and socially conscious, mindful people like Margaret Delmont, like the board that I've put together on this foundation. I haven't collected a single dollar out of that foundation. I didn't want to get paid. On the contrary, I've contributed. Besides time, energy, and resources, I contribute passion. I find like-minded people to make it work. Then I realized we have to take a different approach. We can no longer continue just asking for donations. Give me, give me. Yet we are giving a message of empowerment. And when you look at all these small nonprofits, almost always it's a struggle with funding. Yet we're telling the folks that we're reaching to be empowered, to be self-sustaining. So I started taking different approaches. I created a company called Biznovator. Business and Innovation Register, got the trademark, and we're scaling it throughout different countries. We have the first licensee in Dominican Republic teaching young people to take ownership and having that license, and they empower young people by teaching young people the importance to discover their purpose, transform their mindsets, and connect to their future. And that when we do that and mentor and coach and support, I think they get to the next level. We complain a lot about millennials and teenagers. Look at the great things like they do. Like you said, I have a house I can clean. I have a lovely car that I can fix. I have the luxury of paying for gas. And how often do we complain about those simple things? We're so blessed. So what we're trying to do is get young people to the next level, empower them, but we teach them one core concept that most schools don't even teach about: entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. Most schools aren't talking about that enough. And key here is having ownership and control of your destiny. No matter how poor economically you are, no matter how rich, tall or short, at the end of the day, you control your own destiny. And this is why the most recent program called Ella, Emprendedoras Latinas Liderando con Acción. Entrepreneur Latinas Leading with Action is the most recent program. It's called Ella Inc. for girls who are 13 to 21. And I was inspired because when I travel Latin America and in other countries, girls don't even go into business or are encouraged to go into business because it's still very machista, although in the United States it's the fastest business formation rate. But the numbers are not still there. You still have more male-run business. Here's another one, technology. You have more African American Latina women with IT degrees than men who are African American Latino. But when they come out of college with those degrees, who has the jobs? It's mostly men, Latino and African American, in comparison to Latinas and African American women. They have more IT degrees, but it's the men in those positions. It was my stepdaughter who inspired me at 8 years old, who I taught entrepreneurship. And I saw that she had an amazing good dad, an amazing responsible stepfather, an amazing mother. But then I asked myself, she's successful. She's a lawyer at 23 years old. She graduated high school at 17, but we always supported her. I was always behind her, empowering her, her dad, her mom, me. But how many girls have a dad at home? Or that male figure that believes in her? And even when you do in Latin America, the girl's supposed to maybe go to college, graduate, and then right around 27, 28, 29, mom and dad are saying, you got to get married soon to be home. No, you're not going to go away to college to the United States, but the boy could. So this is why I created Emprendedoras Latinas Liderando con Acción. Entrepreneurial Latinas leading with action. So I am dedicating my life all over again, another 20 plus years, strictly in empowering and creating young women entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders around the world. I'm committed to do that because I see the injustices. As president of the United Nations Association, Miami chapter, we just had a forum not too long ago where we just featured professional, successful women. And the stats are there. There's major gaps, a lot of good things. I think there's been a lot of progress, but we got a lot to go. So I challenge all of you in all of your programs, carve out something, and some of you are already doing it, but carve out something to reach some girls. I really believe that. So you can find out more about what we do. Simply go to Casimiro Global Foundation. I'm not here to sell. I'm not asking for money. I've always been a believer that when you do good, it's passion-driven, purpose-driven, the money finds you. The money finds you. And if we are talking about being sustainable programs and helping others, then you need to inject in all of these charities and nonprofits and funds more entrepreneurship. You have to place your strengths and your capacity, approach corporations. If you think that their nonprofit dollars are like this, their marketing dollars are like this, bigger. Go after that pool of money and then figure out how through your social innovation or your programs, whatever that is, it can help them. And also remember in the nonprofit world, and this is what I understand from a biblical perspective perhaps, that when you give and you're giving unconditionally, then you're really giving. But when you give and expect something in return, you're giving for another motive, another incentive, recognition, and so on. And a lot of corporations today want the tax shelter, want to give and get publicity. Then you ask yourself, are they really giving? Starbucks is on our board. Whenever we run the Biznovator camp at FIU 2 weeks with students from like 10 plus countries, yes, they contribute and sponsor, but they send about 15 to 20 partners from Starbucks, and they coach the kids for like a whole week. That's giving. As a matter of fact, we got to tell them no more because they all want to get involved. As I mentioned, if it's passion-driven and cause-driven, the money will follow. I really believe that. It's been a real honor meeting probably 10 or 15 of you. It's my duty and my job to meet more. And if I can be of any assistance, 30 plus years doing this, 30 plus countries, and I want to say that live in front of me, roughly about 300,000 young people and adults, through partners like the U.S. embassies and others, universities, live. But when you take the message, like all of you will, and start sharing it with others, including social media and 4 books that I wrote, then it's probably in the millions that have heard the message or read about it or seen it. Now, when I say you got the, all of you will respond with power, because we know that power is poder and it's energy. So when I say again, you got the, all of you will say power. Some of you will do power. You ready? You got the power. Not loud enough. Once again, remember that power is energy. And I know we're going to go to dinner and I'm between you and the food. You got the power. Now the last one to finish is just simple as, and that really gets the energy going. And I'm just warming up. Ready? You got the power. And then we're going to close with you got the power. And then NEXUS. And it's on video. And the world is watching it. It's live. Because you got the power. NEXUS. Thank you. Thank you.
Meditation.
Well, Juan brought up a lot of energy for this room. We are a little late in our time, so we are not having the guided meditation that we supposed to have. So we are having tomorrow morning, I promise you, because we are having tonight in 1 hour the Impact Investing pitch dinner, and it's going to be in this room. So I'd like the speakers that are going to pitch. Are they here in this room? Are you here? Like, please stand up. Okay. Okay. And please, Ben, would like just to say some words about the dinner, and then we can close for today. And you are all invited to join us for the pitch dinner in 1 hour in this room.
Sure. Thank you, Talita. Yeah. What?
You're invited if they registered.
Yes, if you registered, make sure to come. And I think we'll probably give a little bit more of an intro then. But this is an experiment. It's the first time we're doing this. We've talked a lot about how do you create win-win partnerships. And this is actually, we have real opportunities to do that, of entrepreneurs who are solving really critical problems in their communities and are looking to partner. So.
And we are just asking people for register because we have a cost and we will serve drinks. So as Rachel mentioned, we're not making money, but we need to make this event sustainable. So if you would like to join us and you didn't pay for the dinner, please go to the desk and then or do your registration. Is still on time. So yeah, thank you, and hope we can see you tomorrow. If you're not going to dinner at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
I promise. Yes, and I'll give you my card. Hold on.